Yay. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, I'm Kristin. It's nice to meet you. We have a sign-in sheet and then copies of material and some information about how to do it.
Good.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Kristin.
Hi, John Long.
It's so nice to meet you, John.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Kristin.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, welcome.
So you probably heard my spiel, but you just sign in and then after you do, this is a copy of what we're going to do today together.
Good.
And then this is kind of provides information about how to keep it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. For those of you online, we're just going to give it another 30 seconds and then we'll get started here in person and online. Okay. You guys, thank you for coming. I am so appreciative. I think the beautiful weather really did keep people away today. I want to introduce myself. I'm Kristin Seifer, and I work for a firm called Michael Baker International. But this project is a collaboration between our firm, which is based in Lakewood, and a firm called eHoldings, which is based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if you don't know anything about wayfinding, it's pretty specific. And so we do tend to have a national reach in regard to designing signs, destination signage, arrival signage, informational, educational signage for downtowns. So the way that the meeting's going to work, and forgive me, my mask makes my glasses go whoop, 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 and I have bifocals, so it makes it extra difficult. But okay, so we're going to do a brief presentation, and then you can see in the back, I'm glad you sat close because that's nice for now. But then we'll have a break, we'll go to the back, and then we have some interactive exercises for everyone. So since there's just 4 of you at this point, we'll have you gather at one table, and then we'll walk you through what we're going to do. So we're doing this online and in person. So I'm going to go through the entire presentation, then we'll break, and the folks online will do all those interactive exercises in a virtual way while we do them in person. So I'll cover everything that we're going to do so that everyone hears that collectively, and then we'll take our break. So 15 minutes-ish of presentation, and then since we're so few, probably 30 minutes of discussion, but we're welcome to stay as long as you want to talk and very interested in your ideas. So again, really grateful that you came out. So I'm going to go through the presentation. This is our first public meeting, which is great because you've arrived at day 1 of wayfinding. So we're going to talk a little bit about what wayfinding is, what the goals of the project are, where do we go from here, the sort of scope of the timeline for what we expect. We have some pretty major milestones, so we want to share those with you guys. Any questions before we begin? You can't see my crazy smile, but I'm smiling underneath my mask. So to orient you to the project, again, we have 2 things tonight. We're doing it in person and online, and we're going to provide a bit of a project overview to start with. And then some information. Can you guys still hear me? Can you guys still hear me online? Okay, yeah, very clear, good. And then we're going to do the breakout groups and share next steps. So like I said, my name is Kristin Seifer, and I'm part of the team with Amy Wiles, who is online right now, that's going to be working with you on wayfinding throughout this project. And then we also have some folks from Estes Park here tonight, so I want to introduce them. I have David in person, David Hook. I have Alex in the back, He's going to help when we get to the tables. And I am so sorry, you introduced yourself and I in one ear, not the other. So Jessica, the Community Development Director, is also here. Thank you for coming. I very much appreciate it. And then we have technical support and online. So she's sort of doing, Liani is doing both. And then you can see that there's a QR code that provides information that goes to a link on the Estes Park website. We'll be updating that throughout the project. So if you have any information that you want to share throughout, that QR code is also at the bottom of this sheet. That is the handout takeaway. So you can go there for more information. And this is the overall process. And where we are is the white box. So when you begin a wayfinding project, what you need to do is understand the place first. Part of that is listening to you guys so that we understand how to design for sense of place, places that are important to find, difficult locations, but we do our research first too. So prior to tonight, we've been looking around Estes Park, figuring out where the difficult areas are, what are things that are hard to find, confusing to find, what are the important destinations in town. So we did start that work, but we want to get a gut check with you today about, is there anything we've missed? Is there anything that's really important that you want to make sure we hear? So we started that in step 1. We are in step 2. After tonight, we're going to go into design, the idea of how can we design signs that reflect the sense of place and character of Estes Park, as well as where are the locations where those signs need to go. So broadly, 3 through 4 through 5 through 6 is narrowing that big triangle of lots of design ideas down to 1, then circling back with you, making sure that we've hit it, and then designing the final plan. So this will be an implementation plan, which means that we will go through basically drawing sets that will allow a contractor to build the signs. And we'll do those in phases so that you don't have to encumber all the cost at once. But the goal at the end is to have signage designs, locations where all the signs go, content on every sign, and how much it costs to build them. Any questions about that process? Okay. So again, you can find this information. It will keep being updated on the town's website. I would encourage you to go there and check it out. And then for those of you who came in and maybe saw the signs that are on the back wall, they are a duplicate. They're a duplicate of this. So the first thing that we're going to start with when we do breakout groups is think about goals. And the town has established some goals for the project overall, but what we would like to hear is community goals too. So the town's goals are here. We want to create something that's compelling and cohesive, that feels like Estes Park, announces the sense of place of the community, and really feels like something you are proud of, that is reflective of how beautiful this place is. Then we also want to determine the locations and the messages for each sign type. And then again, we're going to work on that implementation plan that has costs associated with it. So what is wayfinding? I get this question a lot, especially around Colorado. People are like, are those CDOT signs wayfinding? Like, is a kiosk wayfinding? So ideally, wayfinding has 2 purposes. The first is very functional, like how do I find stuff is the core of wayfinding. Figuring out with community what you want to point people to so that they can find it is really important. But just as important is making the signs feel like they are reflective of character and place. So that's looking at everything from architecture, natural landscapes, history, culture, and bringing those together so that they create signage objects that feel like they're embedded in the character of a place. So functional, but also kind of aesthetic and place building. So in order to understand place, that's where you guys come in. We always look, but we want to hear what's special about Estes Park and then make sure that the signage reflects that in regard to color, material, scale, etc. So if you've been around Colorado, I've designed some signs all around Colorado. This is in downtown Littleton, where that's a very walkable downtown district. These signs were meant to be really reflective of history. They get a lot of visitors in Littleton, just like you guys do. And they wanted to tell their historic story. So every sign has a unique image of a historic part of downtown at the top. Those images are geolocated to where the sign is. So you can stand, in this case, there's hula hoopers that are in the middle of the street in the 50s. And you're standing where those hula hoopers were, and you can see the old buildings. And it's a nice way of adding something to the signage that also gives back to a value of the community, which is history and storytelling of history. So you can see that signs serve visitors, but they also serve residents. And I will say in Colorado, I wish some days this wasn't true, but many of the people that come to Colorado are visitors for a couple of years. And we get a lot of folks that come to Colorado to live, to retire, to visit, to be a new job person. So we do look at those people as having a visitor mentality of not really knowing where things are for the first couple of years. And then this is another example of the Littleton signs and a different one that celebrates the historic courthouse. We also have recreation as a core value here in Estes Park. So how we connect to trails, how we design the signage system so that it's integrating with existing trail networks, existing walking networks. This is the Mary Carter Greenway Trail signage, which passes through Sheridan and Englewood and Littleton in the Denver metro area. And these signs are across many municipalities, and the system has been expanded throughout the South Suburban Parks and Rec network. So we really do want to look at how we build something. In this case, it was a very natural place. We wanted those signs to be very natural in character. And then in Buena Vista, same, the signage for the historic part of Buena Vista. As you know, if you've ever been there, you can kind of pass it. You don't realize that if you turn right or left, there's a walkable downtown there that's quite rich. So they really wanted to celebrate the river in these signs, as well as the different character areas in town. So those colors, hi, welcome, please come in. Those colors are reflective of different parts of town, that wherever you are in town, it will have that color as a primary. So for example, here in the downtown district, it's red and it's color coded. So we do use shorthands like that to get people around too. Thank you for coming. And then up in Leadville. So if you keep driving from Buena Vista one way or the other, you can end up in Leadville. And in Leadville, they really wanted to celebrate the history and the character of their mining community. So the signage palette really reflects that. These are some historic signs in the bottom right. And then one thing that I thought was just delightful is they really wanted a celebratory sign that people could gather around, take selfies with, that kind of created a space around itself for their gateway. And that's what you see in the bottom left is people very excited to be in Leadville, very excited to have their photos taken and celebrate being there. And then as we go into more rural parts of Colorado, Paonia is one of our mountain communities that is also a creative district. And we worked with artists for these signs. So all the little circles that are on the side are cast glass because they have a number of glass artists in town that really part of funding these signs was actually selling those little glass pieces. People would buy one and it would help with the funding of the signage. So that's being funded right now. And then I'm currently working right now in Crested Butte, Mount Crested Butte, Colorado. That's a ski town, very tourist based. They really wanted to do kind of a forest of ski trees for that. But just like we're doing in Estes Park, we really need to hear from the community in regard to what is meaningful so that we can design to reflect that meaningful sense of place. And then maps, I just want to call attention to some of the pieces of signs that we're going to be thinking about. Maps are one of them. You're welcome to come on in. When people use maps, they do use the phone, but when you are on your feet, you tend to use your eyes. So we do want to have these physical maps in town that help orient people. This one's in 40 West in Denver. It's another creative district. here, it was really important for me to design these concentric circles that said, okay, everything in this circle is 10 minutes away if you're walking. Everything in this circle is 5 minutes away, just to encourage people not to give up. You kind of come off the light rail and you encounter this sign and you encounter your physical landscape and you don't really know where to go. If you want to go to Casa Bonita, it's only 5 minutes away. But the sign helps you get there and helps provide that reassurance that here's my path. Oh, and there's Leadville again. So this idea of creating a sense of arrival, but also creating, in this case, a place that the sign helped to gather people around. And what's great about that is you can make a friend very easily when you're doing a parallel activity. Even if it's just kind of taking a selfie with the sign, it tends to encourage some connection. And we love to see that. So that's one of our goals too. Okay, any questions about wayfinding at all before I move on? And we talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. Okay, we'll keep going. So you guys have done some work already, which is fantastic. We have two things that we can talk about right away that will help us understand if it's important to keep some of the ideas that have already happened. So the first is the 2019/2018 signage that came out of the downtown plan. So there was some thought put into at least two different sign types, just some preliminary ideas, and they're good. So we really wanted to get your impression of what has already been done, at least as an idea. It's something that we can absolutely flesh out more if these are design concepts that you think are really strong, then we just need to create the whole signage palette and just tweak it so that it will be easy to build, cost effective, etc. But we've got that to discuss. And then the 2021 parking signs that just went up are another way to talk about messaging, color, and some of the icons that are used for those parking lots and how effective you feel those are in helping people get around. So just want to talk about those a little. As far as like the scale, I will just say those signs were designed per CDOT standards. So their height, their kind of massing, the size of the lettering was very prescriptive, but everything else, I'd love to get your feel, do you feel like the color is appropriate? The colors for those were based on the new brand colors of the town of Estes Park. And you can see they're very different from a palette perspective than the signs that came out of the 2018-2019 downtown plan. So that's something we'd love your feedback on too. Those more bright colors, do you feel like that is something you'd like to see more of? Or would you prefer something that's more of the muted palette of 2018-2019? So I'm going to go through what we're talking about in the breakout groups, and then we're going to do the breakout groups. And that's just because we're doing this online and in person. So the first breakout group we're going to do is current concepts. We're going to review those concepts that I just showed about the 2018-2019 signage design and the existing parking signs that are up right now. And then for the second breakout group, we're going to go through an image preference selection. And I'll talk you through what those are going to look like before we break up and do it. And then we're going to talk about goals. What are your goals for the project? That can be a functional goal, that can be an aesthetic goal, that can be an implementation goal, how much money you want to spend on it. And then breakout topic 4 is destinations. We've created a list of important destinations based on past studies, based on our research, but we want to make sure we haven't missed anything. And we also want to make sure that we ask if there are places where you think signs are especially needed. So that's that breakout group. So breakout topic 1 is going to be a review of those 2018, 2019, and new parking signs. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes asking you to write your thoughts about that. Then we're going to talk about it collectively and get some consensus, or at least have the ability to share with one another what you think is valuable about each of those, and kind of get a sense from one another what the collective feeling is in regard to what we should pull forward. Then for breakout topic 2, we're going to do a best practice image selection. So if you see on your individual sheets, we've pulled images from other places that represent some of the character items that we found in the downtown plan. So there were some things established about materiality, color for new buildings, and we extrapolated that and put it into signs. So we called these images, and what we're looking for is for you to tell us which of these you like and why. So that will be that exercise. Do you like this material? Do you like this message? Do you like this color? And then we're going to talk again about goals. This is very open-ended in regard to what you personally would like the signs to achieve. And some people might be here from groups that you represent. You might represent a hiking group, a biking group, a downtown merchant group. Signs serve different folks. So we're looking for goals that are pretty specific to your experience and what you'd like to see. And that goes for demographics too. People with little kids, people with grandkids have different signage needs than people who are here as temporary residents. I don't know if that's the case for any of you guys. Same for merchants too. And then as far as destinations, again, we have called that list, but we're looking for your feedback. So any questions about the breakout groups before we break to the back and begin this exercise? Go, please.
Those breakout groups consecutively?
We are. We're going to break. We're going to pause the online. The online folks are going to go strictly to online, and we're going to do strictly in person. So we're going to break. We're going to do our stuff in person. They're going to do their stuff online. And then if we have time, we'll come back together at the end and share virtually what everyone said online, and we can share here too. Sound okay? You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one. That is, excuse me, the summer months and into the fall. Pay for parking.
They do.
How is that going to be integrated?
So the signs that are up for parking now are temporary, which means that as part of our signage design, we will be creating permanent signs that point to everything, including parking. So what we want to know from you is how much flexibility would you like in regard to free parking times and paid parking times. What we've heard from the town is that there definitely needs to be flexibility because the lots do change and turn over, and moreover, parking still an open question in regard to how it's addressed in town. So our goal for that, prior to hearing from you, is to ensure flexibility, that there can be changeability in that messaging that happens really easily. So that could be everything from sliding in a new, it's not free right now, it's paid, to we can explore electronic options too that can be embedded within a larger sign that allow it to just change over at the time of year where not only would you be able to say it's paid, but you can, as part of a system like that, you can also have it monitor who's coming in and say it's full too. That's a really good question. Anything else? If not, we'll break. Okay, thank you. Let's see. I think Amy's addressing the online, but Amy, if you have online questions, just send them to my chat that I'm monitoring for you.
Yep, we will cover them in our breakout group.
Okay, good.
Can you, yeah, we can stop the recording. So thank you.
No, you're okay. So you can see the room now?
Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
your back of your head.
Really?
And some empty seats.
Is this better? Is this a better view? I don't know where the
Either view is
cameras are.
perfect, Kristen, however, however you want.
I'll do my jazzy dance. So do you guys, all of our folks, it was a really wonderful discussion, but they have all left. So,
Everybody but one of ours have left as well.
okay. Well, for the
I'm not-
sake of, whatever, do you want to share the highlights of what you heard from your group, and I'll do the same?
Sure. So just kind of a quick rundown of things that we heard. People really felt that signs are needed, particularly to orient pedestrians and bicyclists, especially from the public parking lots, right? They really want to use signage to get people out of their cars and to walk and bike around Estes. We talked some about destinations. We talked about just additional shopping and dining that are off of Elkhorn, so people know when they're on Elkhorn that there are additional places off of it. Breweries, distilleries being kind of a key thing that people are interested in. Historic buildings, historic places, and then things to do, public parks, the Riverwalk, playgrounds, picnic areas, just places where people like to congregate, right? So we talked a lot about that. And then as far as the signage design, everyone in our group really liked both the original concepts as well as the temporary parking signs. They liked both. They thought that the temporary signs, the blue and the bright colors, really stood out, which they felt was important, particularly for people in their cars. They liked the more muted colors for, I think, more of the pedestrian and bike signage, but they did think that, we can kind of mesh the two even. They did like some of those brighter colors. They felt that they worked. Like I said, they liked the temporary parking signs. They like those. And then with the images that they kind of chose that they liked, they all felt kind of a similar pattern, right? A lot of the more natural, earthy, earth tones, but also artsy. They didn't like the boring ones. They liked the ones that had something a little more unique, a little different, just something that gave you more of a sense of place, a unique sense of place. I don't know if Paige or Greg or Hillary, if I missed anything from our group, but it kind of sums it up from my take. How about you, Kristin?
So we heard really similar things. I'm going to start with the functional part the way you did. So one of the things that people felt was really important to sign for were experiences. So people come to town and they're looking for something to do. That's often like, I want to do a walk, or I want to find like galleries, or I want to find the river. And so not just creating signs that, point to a place, but offer what is available at that place. So I thought that was a really important point to take away. Everything that you said, we also heard. So I do appreciate that your groups talked specifically about some of the types of destinations though too, like from a business standpoint. So breweries, things like that. I think we were focused a little bit more on like public destinations. So I'm really appreciating hearing what came out of your discussion in regard to those kind of like experiences along like eating and drinking. That's really
and
helpful.
people like the icons. We did talk about that too. The use of icons in the signage as opposed to a lot of text.
Yes.
They like more the minimalist, I think, from the, things that got too busy, they were overwhelmed and they didn't really like. So keeping it artsy, but minimalist in terms of like what all you're directing people towards.
Yep. Well, and we had the same kind of feedback. So wanting to keep it, clarity was really important. So in regard to the function of the signs, again, making them really clear. But then in regard to aesthetics, the words that really came out more and again were quality and craftsmanship. So feeling like they were very, the materials were true materials, that they were quality materials that reflected the place, and that they were well crafted, almost like individual art pieces from the standpoint of quality. So they didn't want them to look like they just kind of got put up real quick. They wanted them to look like they grew from the place and reflected that kind of quality of experience. And then the other design thing that came out was the relationship. They really did like the 2019 and the temporary parking signs, but for different reasons. So they really like the aesthetics. of the 2019 sign designs. Again, feeling like the materials were getting to quality. One person said, I like this kiosk better than any of the kiosk pictures for the sticker dot. So I thought that was really telling. But they did like the palette of that. But they also had a lot of positive things to say about the clarity and the sort of icons of the parking signs. And then we had a really interesting discussion about whether or not they'd want to keep parking signs as separate. And it did feel like, at least among the folks that we had here in person, that there's some power in separating parking as its own type of sign that still is within our palette, but just kind of points people to parking in one place so they know where to look for that rather than trying to hunt for it among other messages. So I thought that was really interesting. We also had a discussion about changeable signs. So kind of like that idea of a digital sign that would be able to be interactive, perhaps, that would help, again, maybe point people to experiences and what's on offer there. And the other thing that came out from a design perspective was the international nature of visitors to Estes Park and the fact that it did need to be very icon-based in addition to English, feeling like the icons really needed to stand in as international marks for where to go, what to find. And then the other piece was looking at destinations, maybe grouping them. We did have some interesting hierarchies with the destinations, but particularly rising those to the top that offered like a number of experiences in each. So this is a place where I can get information. It's also a place where there's a nature walk. Gosh, there were a lot of really good ideas. I feel like I've got about half of them right now off the top of my head. But the things that really stood out were making sure that the design was high quality, making that relationship between Rocky Mountain National Park and Estes Park apparent through things like color, materiality, and the look and feel of it. So not really, kind of trying to draw those two a little closer together, perhaps, than some of the signs that are out there now.
All right. Well, thank you. Are we ready to wrap up the recording then?
Yes, we actually weren't recording this part, were we? Oh, we were.
I think David hit start, so.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm ready to wrap it up. And I'm so grateful. Amy, you and I can circle back tomorrow. I'll take all the notes that I have. And we can kind of noodle the commonalities of the discussions. And then, a question I had. So how long will the